Hello everybody, I am at my favourite place, well it's not my favourite place but it's one of them, Velo Bavarian, the bike shop, me local. This is Jimmy.
Hello everyone.
He's got me for the afternoon so I'm going to annoy him. Basically Jimmy is a mechanic, just informed me he's level 3.
Yep, so I take level 3, worked in shops for about 13 years, so yeah.
So basically a level 3 means that you're the highest you can get.
Yeah, if you want to be above that you're sort of more teaching people, you know, how to fix bikes rather than normally, like most shops will have like a level 2 or a level 3 as their sort of manager in the workshop, and yeah, I'm level 3.
Jimmy, I do notice you use your hands a lot there, so I think I'm going to have to put your microphone on you, buddy.
Okay.
You guys sent in some questions for Jimmy, so we're going to do a little Q&A, then we're going to do another 2 videos, one about how to put a tyre on. I know that some people think, oh, that's really easy, but it's something that a lot of people struggle with. I definitely struggled with it, still sometimes do. Now that I've got my trusty tyre glider, I don't. And then we're also going to do another video on tubeless tyres, which I have no clue about at all, so good luck with that one, Jimmy.
It's not as scary as you think. There's a lot of myths and stuff out there from early tubeless, but hopefully we can bust them myths and stuff.
So that'll be video 3. But anyway, let's get into the questions. We have got Penny behind me, my bike.
Yeah.
Looking a bit dirty, to be honest,
dirty,
Jimmy.
yeah.
Sorry about that. Right then, Jimmy, question number 1 for you. Right, now this is one I actually want to know too. What is your opinion on waxed versus lube chains?
So it's a big, if you're first getting into it, I think, Amy, you have like a big, broad range of people that watch your videos. It's people that have first started, all the way up to people that have maybe been riding for quite a few years. If you're just getting started, don't worry about it. I don't think you need to ride a few years of just learning how to properly clean your chain, using oils and stuff like that. Don't worry too much about wax chains straight away. It's more like, actually the main bike I use it for is my best bike, and as we're going into winter now, I actually just waxed it to leave on the turbo trainer. Right. Which sounds a bit funny, but it's like, your bike doesn't really get that dirty indoors. I'll wax it just before I put it on the trainer, and then I won't have to touch it. I won't have to do anything to it really for sort of until the end of winter. You get roughly 1,000 sort of Ks out of a wax chain. Right. Indoors, outdoors is a bit less. I'd say sort of 500 to 700, depending on how, you know, an off-road bike won't get as much as an on-road bike. And
after that, you have to put more wax on it, or you need
so I don't know if this is a brand that you're allowed to show, but I'll kind of have a.
I don't have any brand.
A lot of okay, perfect. So the brand we use is Silker, but you can use any other wax. There's plenty of waxes out there. They do a sort of top-up kit. So basically, every 500k, I will go around as if it's a drip lube or a drip oil. I'll go around and just put a couple of coats of this on each link.
Okay, this sounds really stupid, but I just don't get what the difference is. I mean, I use lube, and I literally ride my bike, and then when it's dry, I put more lube on. So what's the difference with wax? Like, this is
so wax will keep it a lot cleaner. It doesn't pick up the dirt anywhere near as much. Okay. And it tends to be slightly more noisy when you first set it up, but then it'll kind of wear in and just be pretty silent. It's kind of, I find if you're doing oils, you almost need to, especially in the winter here, you need to clean it sort of every other ride. Yeah,
it does get rid, because everything sticks to it.
With wax, it's kind of every 500k, so that might be...
What, so it'll stay clean?
Pretty much. Obviously there's I can't say yes, and then it'll be someone will be like in your comments saying no it doesn't. But it's kind of like every 500k you can either put a bit of drip wax back on, and it won't be quite as clean then, because it will pick up a little bit with this on, but it's kind of like every 1,000k you can kind of get it redone. I only do it for my best bike. My winter bike, I just use oils because I'm going to clean that bike when I get home from a wet ride anyway, so I might as well just clean my chain. It's an extra 5-10 minutes. If you're new, don't worry about it. Just learn how to degrease your chain and put some lube on, and don't keep putting more lube on top of lube. Yeah,
that's the other thing. Like, I learned that. I used to put way too much lube on, so you just need a tiny bit.
You need to clean it as well as you can. You can even get those special tools to clean your chain if need be. I just use a cut-off water bottle with some degreaser in it, and I paint it onto the cogs, paint it onto the chain, leave it for a bit, and then sort of wash it off. And then I'll go around twice, sort of with a sort of wet lube at this time of year. That's enough. And almost every other ride then clean off the old degreaser, put some fresh lube on, and then it'll be
Great.
good as gold.
Yeah, don't go pouring the whole bottle on like I used to do, and then everything sticks to it.
It'll only
It
go on
really
your
messy
leg,
and it's horrible. So,
yeah, the chain will end up going black, and it's
a bit like mine is now.
It's a little bit, it could do with a clean now.
Less is more. Right, next question is, someone asked, how do you stop disc brakes from squeaking / why do they squeak? Mine squeak when they've got bits in them or if it's got wet.
Yeah, so this is a very broad thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that can cause it, but in a sense, it normally means that your pads are contaminated. I've got a set that I've took out that were worn out, but it tends to be that a lot of brake pads now are sort of, they're almost like a little sponge kind of thing. And once you get a bit of oil or anything like that, like I would never touch this with my hands if I was ever going to put this back in a bike, because even the oil on your hands can contaminate the pads. It's a tricky thing, and people tend to do it the most when they clean their chain, like we just talked about, and little bits of oil and little bits of lube and stuff from that flick onto
blooming, I think I've done that with mine.
Yeah, you can get sort of stuff to go around. Have we got a set in here? I don't think I do, but you can get covers to go over your discs, which is the best thing ever. If you can, I use it all the time when I'm washing bikes outside. I'll just put covers over the discs, and it means you're not going to get it. You can always make a little cardboard thing sort of to go around on the inside of the disc rotor, so you could put a little bit of cardboard on the inside of the wheel here, so that when you are cleaning your chain, it stops it flicking over. But you can even, you can ride through an oily puddle and it picks up and it sprays back and it gets on the pads, Like, there are a lot of myths out there, a lot of people online, a lot of forums. I'm sure people will tell us that you can sand them down and you can put them in the oven and stuff like that.
What, your brake pads?
This is what people do.
Why don't you buy a new pair?
Exactly, and they're not cheap, but you're almost better off.
How much are they?
It depends. Like, a lot of pads are around the £24 for a set of pads, so you're getting on for sort of £50 to replace front and backs.
Right.
Now, there's different compounds which will soak up more or less, or sort of thing. A lot of people will use a sintered pad in the winter, which tends to be a tiny bit more noisy when it's wet, but it doesn't tend to pick up. It doesn't tend to absorb oils and stuff quite as much. So a lot of people use them in the winter, and then they use more of an organic pad in the summer, which is a bit quieter, but it does tend to pick up a little bit more oils. So there's a lot into that, and it's kind of like there's no one reason that says, okay, your brakes are squeaking because of this. It tends to be that they've come in contact with something that is making them squeak, or you've just washed your bike and they're a bit wet, what you tend to find 10 minutes into a ride, they'll dry off or whatever, and they'll just stop squeaking.
I'll be riding along with my brake pad, I can tell them like there's something in my disc brake, it's like making a horrible noise, and then I'll just like brake a few times and it'll go. Because I've like got it out. I'm meant to do that.
That's fine. It clears it. It's rotors are pretty hardy. Rotors will last you a fair long time, so it doesn't matter if something's catching a little bit. Yeah. Obviously, if you take your bike in for a service and stuff like that, it shouldn't really leave. Ever. But it will never leave with it sort of catching. But it's. Don't worry too much if they're on a ride. If there's a little bit of catching from a bit of grit and grime, it's not going to wear out your rotor. Okay. Rotors can last sort of 2 years plus. If it's, unless you're sort of constantly riding downhill and constantly got your brakes on.
A bit like me, because when I'm going downhill, I'm on the brakes. So yeah. Talking of brake pads, then Jimmy's shown me this, which I need to use, because when I go on the turbo, this bike's just come off the turbo, I accidentally pressed the brakes and then my brake pads at the back got stuck together. Yeah, so this is quite common with people, even when they're putting it in and out of the car or in and out of a bike box or anything like that. If you just put these little clips in, they normally come with your bike. So most people will at least get one with your bike. Some brands will only give you one, and they'll just bin by accident.
And they'll just, and you kind of, when you take your front wheel off, you kind of put it in the front, but
you can show it in the back.
In a sense,
now,
I'll show
in the
it
back
in
at the moment, I think mine are a bit squished together, Jimmy.
Yeah, we'll see if it goes in, but
I don't think I can get my wheel on at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, it'll still go in, and it'll probably push it back out a little bit, to be honest. But I'll just show you before I push this in. So this little sort of forky bit here clips onto this little pin that goes through the pads. So that, in a sense, holds the pads into the caliper. Now that little prong bit there, that circle bit there, that clips onto this little pin, in a sense, and holds itself in. So
So that's important to put in because when I go abroad, I normally put a bit of cardboard in there, but
that's fine. You can use cardboard if need be. That's not a problem.
Well, I've lost my phone now. Here we are. Sorry, we can cut this bit. Next question. So we've spoke about the brake pads. How do we know when the brake pads need changing?
Okay,
can you see by looking at them or?
Yeah. So what I'll normally do is I'll quite often, even with the wheels still in, I'll get a bit of white paper or something like that, and I will kind of put it down underneath it, and I'll look from above.
Yeah.
By doing that, you can sort of see the gaps between the disc rotor and thing, because you can always see the white. If I move that out of the way, it makes it quite tricky to see. You put the white there, it'll be much easier to see. And you kind of, on the pad, you'll be able to see that there's a little bit of meat on it, is what we sort of tend to use the term.
Bit of chicken.
Yeah, and then there's the metal plate at the back. I'll bring back that other pad that I had in my hand. So these ones obviously I've took out and they are too far gone.
Yeah.
But in a sense, there's only really, if I sort of try and show that with a bit of paper behind it, there's only really sort of like a piece of paper's thickness between it.
Right.
I would sort of always kind of go for at least sort of 1.5 mil to 2 mil. When you get past that, it can be one wet, gritty ride, and you've got no pad. I will. If
basically,
you just wait
you're not stopping.
I've just swapped a set on.
Basically, you're pulling the brakes and you're rolling into the sheep field.
This is a customer that brought a bike in a few days ago, and they said the brakes just don't feel quite the same as they used to.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
And in a sense, they've just worn the pad completely off, and they were riding metal on metal. Now, I had to actually replace the rotor on this bike because I presume it was a little bit of time that it was metal on metal. And it had damaged actually the rotor. So yeah, I think the rotor was already starting to wear, and then he sped up the process because of metal on metal. I can't give you a kind of date and a time on how long it will last. It's again down to how much you ride the bike. If you ride in wet, grittier conditions, they're going to wear out quicker. You know, we live quite close to Sherwood Pines. It's a very sandy place. You know, I've gone through brake pads in a couple of rides.
Really?
Around Sherwood Pines. Yeah, like a couple of, say if you did, say 4 hours around Sherwood Pines, you're going to have worn out a lot of brake pad because it's quite sandy.
So that's gravel, isn't it?
Yeah, if you kind of ride in more, you know, in hot, dry conditions, you might not need to change brake pads for like 6 months. You know, it's it really does depend. And British weather tends to go wear them out quite quick.
I am not the best at mechanics, and Kyle will tell you that too. Kyle's at work laying bricks at the minute. Anyway, I've got one more question for you, Jimmy.
Yeah, no problem.
And then we'll do another Q&A another time, because otherwise we're going to be here all night.
Yeah.
Now, this is a really stupid question, I think. Can you just explain, because for a lot of people that are new to cycling, and I understand it more now, but I struggled with it at the start and still sometimes get a bit confused. Can you explain, wait, we've not got a cassette on the back at the minute, but there is one somewhere. It's got a flat tyre, don't worry, we're changing them.
Yep, that's no problem.
Because it's still flat from coming off the plane home. Can you explain, you know when they say it's 12 by 34 or it's 12 by 32, what does that actually mean?
So, in a sense, a lot of the time, they're quite often, by the sounds of it, they're referring to the cassette in that thing.
The cassette.
So this is a cassette, and in Shimano terms, they tend to start with an 11.
Okay.
SRAM tend to start with a 10. But when what I presume they mean when they're saying that to you is what the smallest cog is up to what the biggest cog is.
Right.
So the smaller cog is your harder gear. So the smaller that is, the harder it is. So, you know, like Campagnolo go down to 9 tooth, which is quite a tough gear to push. SRAM tend to start with a 10, sometimes 11 still. Right. And then Shimano pretty much, they always start at 11, really. Some of the sort of 10-speed stuff starts at a 12 tooth.
Right,
but
so when you're saying normally 12, when they say, it means it's got 12 teeth on the bottom one?
Yes, yeah. Right. So normally, so I would say you won't hear that very often anymore, 12 tooth. Then probably more on about the speed, so how many cogs you have, if they say 12.
I think that's what they mean, yeah. So there's 12 cogs, and
so
34 is the big.
Nowadays, most bikes, or the most bikes that I see, are 12 speed at the back. Still see quite a lot of 11 speed, but 12 is now the most commonly sold grid set cogs. Now. Yeah, so 12 at the back, 2 at the front. Yeah. When you go to gravel and stuff like that, you tend to go. Sometimes people have a 1 by, but they're probably on about either the smallest cog, which is either, if it's SRAM, 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And if it's Shimano, quite often 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And then the 34 that they're on about is always on about your biggest cog, unless they're on about your rings at the front.
Okay.
So in a sense, the bigger the one at the back, the easier the gears are.
So like this one over here,
or
my
the
friends,
easier,
hang on
the
a
easier
minute.
that your cadence can be.
This one's a big bad boy.
Yeah, I can't remember.
That one's an easier one.
40.
That's a gravel one.
Yeah, it's a. Can't remember what I fitted to this now, but it's either a 40 or a 42.
So basically, if you want to go up the hills like in an easy gear, you need a dinner plate on the back.
Yeah. So this is a 40. So yeah, if you put these two side by side, one is a 34 and one is a 40. So that's what that other number is normally referencing. Tend to find that more endurance bikes and more sort of entry-level bikes, like when you're getting into the sport, will come with a little bit easier gears, and then as you go for sort of more of what you see on TV, more of what the pros are riding, so say in the Pinarello range, if you go for an F, it will kind of come with slightly harder gears than if you go for an X. So yours is an X, it will tend to come with slightly easier gears because it's made for sort of, you know, spinning at slightly easier pace. You know, it's more.
I think I actually swapped because I think mine came with 32 on the back. And I swapped it to a 34 because
a lot of what you do is long days, and you kind of on those long days you almost. The easiest gear on your bike you will use, you know. You'd much better sort of spinning up the climbs at an easy thing.
Yeah, I'm not very good at
a
that,
lot
Jimmy.
of, you know, a lot
I'm
of
a bit
people.
Of a gear grinder.
Yeah, well.
I get told off for spinning too slowly and wasting watts, but I like spinning slow. So
yeah, but you know, a lot of people kind of could benefit from having easier gears on their bike than they currently have.
I think that's all the questions because otherwise we are going to be here all night. But right, I'm going to have to take my jacket off because things are about to heat up. Basically, I don't know if you watched my video last year. If you know Nige, if you watch my channel, Nige did a test where basically he pointed at different parts of the bike and I had to say what they were. But I think I've got better since I've started, but I think I've still got a way to go. Okay,
let's start off with something I think you'll get.
Okay.
So what is, it's quite a tough one to see, but what is the bit on the inside of this crank arm, this little bit here that you can see sticking out the frame?
Jeez, Jimmy, I don't have a blue... Wait, hang on.
You can, I think you can get this. Because this is something that people quite often think is creaking and it's quite often not. Yeah. What is that?
Oh, the crank?
No. That's the bit either side. So that's your left crank arm, this is your right crank arm. What goes between them? This is good to expose you.
What does it begin with? I don't have a clue.
B.
B. Oh,
what?
Bracket?
Yeah.
Is it?
Close.
The rear bracket. The bracket.
Where is it on the frame? It's near the...
It's near the...
So this is the top and this is the...
Bottom bracket.
There you go.
I have heard that before because Kyle always says to me, I think my bottom bracket's going.
Yeah.
But
so that is the most common thing that people come in and say, oh, my bottom bracket's creaking. 9 times out of 10 it's not. It's actually something to do with the wheels or the pedals have worn out or something along those lines. But in traditional bikes, there's a few different versions, but used to have press fits and they were potentially would creak and stuff. But yeah, that's a good one for you to
bracket.
get.
Right, that's in my head now. Okay,
what's this then? Right at the back. What connects your wheel?
I know this one, Jimmy.
Yeah?
Yeah, through axle.
Through axle, perfect. Perfect, that was easy.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Okay. Similar then, because you didn't quite get the bottom bracket for a little bit. Okay. What is the bearings called that are in the front of the bike here that allow you to turn? Being quite tricky with this one. This was my more tricky one. What is this called?
Rotator or something.
No. So it's the front of the bike.
Yeah.
And your what's at the front of you when you're on the bike?
Front of me? Normally Kyle's arse.
No. What part of your body is near the front here? Maybe sits over this.
My chest.
No. Near.
My head.
Yeah.
Head turning. Turning heads.
It's a headset.
Oh, headset.
So you'll know that now for
Jimmy,
next
should have
time.
told me what to listen to music in.
Yeah. I should have.
Okay, a headset.
Yeah, so that's your headset. So if again you ever turn your handlebars, and it feels a bit rough, or you kind of like, oh, I struggled to turn my bars today. When you've washed your bike, you've got it out the shed, maybe it's got a bit wet, or you've got one bike out of the shed that's not been ridden for a while, and you turn it and it feels a bit, it doesn't quite feel right. You can go into a bike shop and say, I think there's something wrong with my headset.
Right.
So you can say, okay. And they'll go, right, okay, we know that.
I know these are the forks.
What's the centre of the wheel called?
Oh, that's the thing that went, isn't it?
Yeah, you did have one. You did have one go.
What was it?
Well, that's a slightly different part. But what's the whole thing called?
Centre of the wheel. What? Not the cassette. That's the cassette.
Yeah, it's your cassette. You got your
spokes.
No, it's spokes. You got your rim. But what do they connect to in the middle? Begins with a H.
Oh, a H?
Yeah.
I literally have no clue whatsoever. This is harder than Nigel's. Nige just pointed at this bit. H.
We've got to show you know. You don't know. You can't know everything. It doesn't matter. A lot of the time, it doesn't matter on a bike.
Jimmy.
No, but a lot of the time, it doesn't matter. You can still have a lot of fun.
How many syllables is it,
Jimmy? Shall I just tell you?
What's the second letter?
H-U.
H-U?
Yeah.
Hub. Hey, I did know.
There you go. So there's a hub, and then what you actually had go was your free hub body.
Free hub. Yeah, my free hub went basically. Yeah. And that's the bit inside, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's the bit in the sensors what's making the noise.
Yeah.
It's what allows you to
that's
freewheel.
when you freewheel, it makes a loud noise and louder hubs. And I like
it's what engages and disengages as you ride to allow you to be able to turn the wheel.
Right. Some people love a loud one, don't they? Some people hate it.
Yeah.
I quite like it loud. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, I've found a benefit for it over this time of year is I'm riding a little bit more off-road again, and it's when you're riding in the woods and you catch up with a dog walker.
Oh yeah, they can hear you
and
coming.
You just stop pedalling and they can hear it, and you don't have to have a bell on your bike, all the time, but a louder one is a bit easier to hear, but sometimes that's more annoying. There are some brands that are super duper loud and it's
too
annoying.
Loud. Yeah, because you want to be having a bit of peace and quiet.
Yeah.
Especially when you're with me riding, because I don't shut up.
Let's do, what's this?
Oh God, simple. Oh, that's, what changes your gear? What, that's your gears?
Yeah, but what is it called?
That bit?
Yeah. What is this front bit called? You've got a rear one.
Shimano Ultegra.
You've got a rear one, and then you've got a front one.
Rear derailleur.
Yes. Yeah.
And front derailleur.
Yeah. Some people will call it a mech as well. It's another little term, but it's front or rear derailleur or mech.
I think I did okay there.
Yeah, that was good. Pedal. You got the pedals.
Top tube. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Top tube, down tube.
Yeah.
That's seat post.
Yeah, so what does it go into?
The stem.
No, think about the others. So that's top tube, down tube.
Back.
What's that?
Saddle.
Yeah.
Seat.
Yeah.
Seat tubes.
Yeah.
Seat tube. Is it actually?
Yeah.
Never heard of it called a seat tube. Forks.
Stays.
Oh, okay, stays and fork. Oh, okay. Sorry. Right, I've learned something new anyway, so that's great. But I know we had some other questions about tyres and changing tyres and things like that and tubeless. They'll be on our next videos.
I'm still learning as well. There's always new stuff coming out, and I will never say I'm the best or anything like that. So it's.
But you are great. Oh, can I ask you one more question?
Go for it.
What's your favourite tool to use? You can see them all.
This is an embarrassing tool, but it's actually the same tool as a guy called Calvin.
Right.
Who is from Park Tool.
Okay.
He has a different version of it, but it's. I said this on another YouTube video. Yeah. Someone else, but this tool is to do with tubeless actually, and you basically when you first set it up tubeless.
Yeah.
A lot of the time people will drop in wheels and they won't drop the whole bike into me. Right. But it means you always almost need to spin a wheel or ride a wheel after you've set it up tubeless to spread all the sealant out.
Right.
And in a sense, you can spin a wheel in the workshop.
Like a Catherine wheel.
Yeah, without having to have the whole bike here.
I've got one more question for Jimmy before we go. What is your least favourite job as a mechanic?
My least favourite job, I think, without doubt, is definitely fitting mud guards. It's this time of year, we dread it.
Don't tell Nige that.
All mechanics this time of year, when it starts to get a bit wet and a bit grimy, we all know people are going to start bringing bikes in and they want their mudguards fitting.
But Jimmy, we probably both will want mudguards for winter because
That's
we're not allowed on club rides.
Because those bikes don't have mounts, I don't think.
No, they don't.
For what I'd call proper mudguards, like fixed mudguards. So you'll end up with something that's a little bit more clip-on, which, won't be quite as permanent. They may not stay perfectly the same, but they are quite easy to fit.
Cool, so it won't annoy you.
No. Okay, I would just say, like you have here, put a little bit of sort of this clear coat where they attach, because they tend to rub a little bit.
Lovely.
I'm
very excited actually, because me and Kyle are going to be twinning. We're going to have the same bike.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same bike. So yeah.
We'll have to go on another gravel ride. Or a winter ride.
Yeah, winter ride. I'm more comfortable on the road, but I'll do some more gravel.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, Jimmy.
No problem.
We're going to do another video on tyres and tubeless tyres. So we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah.
Goodbye.